Hello, Boyan. So happy you are here in this series of calls. As I told you before, the intention is to change the mindset of the people during this crisis and this pandemic. For the people that don't know, my friend, Boyan is the CEO for Bell in Central Eastern Europe. So it's a fantastic company. I think that whatever cheese I'm having in Austria and in Europe is made by my friend. So I'm super happy. And I also want you, Boyan, that you tell us more about the company. But today, please, at the beginning, why don't we start learning from your life, the different challenge that you are living, and all the, the bad times, because at the end of the day, what I want to put very clear in the mind of the people that are listening is that there is no free lunch. Leaders, people that we admire, at the end of the day, they are living a really hard time in the past, but was the way how they face these opportunities, the way how they put passion, positive energy to their life, what made them successful. So thank you again, Boyan. I love you. We met for also in the personal side. We met in Harvard. What a better place to meet. And we were not just in class together, but in the study group together. So we know each other very well. And for many years, we have been sharing this fantastic YPO Harvard opportunity. Thank you, Boyan, again. And please tell us your story.
Thank you, Ricardo. I really thought it was a mistake, when you approached me, because for me, it's really, I don't know what I'm doing in the list together with the ex-president of Colombia, and amazing people. I just, went over the other interviews you did with, guys like Salos Redney or Mario Kennedy, so I said, oh, go. But, I accepted finally to do it. I don't think I belong in this list, but, in the name of our friendship, I decided to do it. Anyway, I'm calling you now from my home in Vienna. The weather here is ugly. It's about, 12 degrees Celsius and it's raining. Oh, so I really appreciate that you interrupted. I mean, your view is amazing. I want to have your view as my virtual background, and I'm really sorry that I interrupted your walk in beautiful South.
No, come on, it's a pleasure.
So yeah, a few words about me. So for me, it's really it's a pleasure to talk to you, and it's a true privilege to be in the list with all these amazing people that you've already summed up in your project. So on my side, people usually think, oh, where is this guy coming from? People think I'm from Russia or somewhere else. So originally I come from Bulgaria, from Sofia, Bulgaria. That's, the southern easternmost part of Europe. That's next to, more famous countries like Greece and Turkey. These are our neighbors. And, we have the privilege to be the poorest country in the EU. And also a second privilege I had, I was born in a communist regime, the hardcore, I call it black and white communist regime. Wow. And I think this is one of our connections. I mean, you know a little bit how it looks with your dear Venezuela.
Exactly.
So that was the starting point. And, I want to say something, it's pretty bleak. It was not a lot of, let's say it's not the best hand you can be dealt with in the beginning of the game. But everything is relative. There were, of course, today people are talking about confinement, like, oh, I'm not able to move, I'm not able to go out of my house. Well, we had this more or less at that time. We were not allowed to exit the country. People were not even allowed to move to another city. Like if you travel to another city in the community, and there was no pandemic, you had to register if you go to another city. And anyway, you were not able to move and live in another city. So that was a starting point. And of course, today, we take many of these, freedoms for granted, but that was the starting point. So, in my life, I had the privilege to experience a regime change. I would say, I think for the better.
At what time? How old were you when you?
I was 16. I was 16, and that's the perfect age, to experience.
Be free.
And you want to break everything, when you're 16 or when you're 18.
Wow.
So there was. I consider myself very, very lucky in many ways that this happened in my time and that I was 16. So and again, the country was, very, very poor. I mean, communism and totalitarian regimes usually make you poor. So we were.
I can understand, Boyan, how having this evidence is so clear that communism is one of the worst things that can happen in the world. We are having so many of these intents all around the world. Spain is so close to going this direction. So many countries. What the fuck? What can we do? You know what? I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I'm really commit. I was in a chat group today in the morning, and with a friends from the school, and I'm really commit to create, and you are gonna be invited to create a new generation of politicians. I call political entrepreneurs, because I believe one of the things that we need to do is bring smart people that think, if in government, like companies that are efficient, that they know how to manage and how to, I think that how is possible that, because I understand during the Cuba or this and that, oh my God, but today in these years, still there are these crazy ideas. It's a nonsense.
So, my dear Ricardo, I don't want to make the interview too
I know I'm
political.
not politics. I know.
I want to share my experience, and I can tell you, in purely in economics terms, I mean, it was a very, very tough start. And when you stop at the freedom of initiative and freedom of people, I mean, the result is pretty obvious. So to all people that I say, that are tempted by the ideas, is that I tried communism, so I know what I'm talking about. I really experienced it, and I can imagine that people in other countries like Spain and other places in the world, I mean, they're tempted to give it a shot. So I've been there, and of course, I mean, and still, I want to make the link to our talk. Even in this kind of tough, I call it really black and white, because we had black and white TVs, things were gray. And even then, I mean, there's room for hope, and you should look at the opportunities, and yes, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of sneakers and computer games, but well, we had time. We had time, and we had relationships. So that was the positive thing. And if you take yourself in hands, I mean, you can always progress. And I always say this too will pass. And the regime was over, and we could and we lived actually one of the most dynamic parts you can imagine. Moving from one political system to another and to a better one. I mean, this is a hell of an experience in a positive way. So that was me until '89 was the Berlin Wall and all the collapse of all these Eastern European communist countries. And then 3 years later, I went to Paris in France to study. Initially, I wanted to study business, and I'm gonna get back to that because, of course, I mean, when you are suppressed and not allowed to do business, for the first 18 years of your life, I mean, it's really, really tempting to go in this direction. So what was it? And of course, the consequence of not having financial means is, in '92 we collected $700 in the family, and I thought this was a lot of money. And I took a one-way bus ticket to Paris.
Wow.
To study. So that's the beginning of the story. And my father at that time told me, "You're crazy. Crazy. I mean, just gotta leave." And that's when you're 18. That's exactly what I want to hear. So one of the sharings, or at least maybe for my profile, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. I'm gonna show you if I'm crazy. So, and I think young people, and I think still, we are a little bit not so young anymore with you. I think that's the strength of youth. Being a little bit crazy, trying to break the rules, if it's in a positive direction. And that was my chance. And the went to Paris to study business. I was quite lucky.
How you pay the bills?
I was working all the time. I had $700. That's it. And I thought, coming from Bulgaria, where the salary was like in Cuba, it was like $20 a month. I thought I was rich. So in Paris, I figured out it won't last me for more than, I don't know, a week or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I started working. I did all kind of jobs. I was teaching lessons, teaching math, helping the students, teaching, I don't know, chess, and waiting tables. I was cleaning windows. I did all kind of jobs.
But you know what, Boyan, I love this story because I think that these are the stories that really people need to listen. There are so many people complaining, and they are so much comfortable than in this position. And the other day I was with an Italian friend, Andrea, and he said this word, look how beauty. He said, I moved from Italy to London, because I think that there is an opportunity there. And I was so, I had so good luck, because the only work that I could find is bringing the letters to one house to another. So imagine, they pay me to know the city. Oh my God. So this guy, instead of see the situation like poor myself, I'm a little person with a motorcycle bringing a letter from one place to another. The vision of this guy is, oh my God, thank God that I have such a beautiful work that they pay me to know better the city. This is the way to move forward. This is what people need to do. So it's the same person in the same position. One is going to hell, and the other is enjoy every single second. And the same with you. So that all these work that you have done. My kid the other day, by a mistake, make an incident with a car. And we pay, of course, but we tell him, okay, now you need a job because you're going to pay us back. And he started working in making burgers in a store.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, look, when he was cleaning the bathroom and he was cleaning everything, and he saw another kid, and he said, I will never in my life, I'm going to throw a paper again in the floor, because I saw how much time take and how disgusting it is. So I think that when we put our kids, when we put ourselves in other position, not so comfortable, we even have a vision, a humble, a different perception of life, that then when we have a position of power, we're gonna do better job for sure.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, for me, it really helped, let's say, not having choice. And it will be a challenge, like I tell you, my daughter's now kind of born with the golden spoon in their mouth, so it will be really a challenge. But of course, I'm trying to kind of expose them to
Real life.
patience, real life, and value. And of course, they're still very, very young, but I hope they grow up with respect to
So and you was able, Boyan, going back to your story, you were able from Bulgaria to get in the university in Paris.
Exactly.
So at least you have the nice, the nice records in your studies to get in different. Okay, and you make a good test. And
yeah, I did the SAT tests, at that time, and again I was, I was lucky in some ways as well. I mean, this is something that I want to share with you. Success and failure is very much in our head, and very much it's all relative. I mean, of course, I'm complaining about Bulgaria being a very poor country and communist, but we had I was born in a family with a lot of books. All my grandparents already, before the communism times, they had a higher education. My grandfather studied medicine in France in the 30s, and this was like to be Elon Musk today, for a Bulgarian to go into France and study. But by the way, I think the story of one of my grandfathers is, both of them actually quite worth telling. My grandfather was an orphan. His whole village was decimated by a pandemic in the 1918. So he was the only survivor of the village. So he was an orphan.
yeah.
And then he made it. He was taken by some French monastery in Bulgaria. That's my kind of French connection. And he could go to study up to studying medicine in France. I mean, people of course were helping him, but I mean, that's a pretty rough start.
Wow. Yes.
So I was benefiting of. So this is just to give you how.
Of course. So you learned French from him.
No, I did. I learned French mostly myself later. By the way, as you mentioned, a bit like your friend in London, I learned French by all these jobs. I mean, all these jobs gave me an occasion to really, really learn the language fast and properly, and of course a little bit from him. But this is the
No, for made the test. How you made the test? In what language you made the test?
that was in English. That was in English. I was very so going back to that. I would like to tell you that of course my starting position was in a way also good because I had this at least all these little books at home. And again, what we have culturally in Eastern Europe, and my parents, they would give their body parts, for my education. And there was these were the kind of values.
This is another thing that I want to put an emphasis that education is the key to make change in life. 100%. If someone is listening this in this podcast and if they don't know how to move forward, trust us. The best way is go back to school, try to study something. This is the best way, because in some ways it's like making exercise with your brain. So it's not just your body, it's your brain, and bring ideas, open doors, open windows, and look, in your case, you were in a communist regime. In some way, one of the worst things that can do the communists is that they mention, or they try to make every single person the same.
Exactly.
But you were different. You were studying, even though you were kind of stuck at this point. You were preparing yourself. You were focused on that, and this opened a door, and then you were able to jump to the next step.
Exactly. And you know, as you were kind of looking for sharing of phrases, one of my other grandfather used to say, studying is not only enough. He said, study languages, because a person with a diploma who doesn't speak a foreign language is like a person without a degree. You know, that was
I love it.
That was something that I was given by my grandparents. And so, and I can tell you, I mean, when you speak a bunch of languages, I mean,
open doors.
Life is easier. Yeah,
I agree.
Immediately. And then maybe something else that helped me a lot from my childhood. I mean, my grandfather was also telling me, don't be a musician, be a director. You know, so this was also, and kind of this, we owe so much to our parents and to our environment and grandparents, because I mean, these are things that set you up. So rather than complaining about my childhood, I mean, I'm looking for the positive part of it, and for the things that gave me strength for the future. So
fantastic.
As you said, I was studying, I was prepared. You know, immediately when landing in Paris, I could give lessons in a bunch of subjects. You know, so it was.
And you were willing to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was not willing. I had to do it, my friend. You know.
But you know what? It's also a great thing. This fact that you mentioned, there is no plan B, there is no option. It's just plan A. And in my case, I need to leave Venezuela, and many other friends. When we start doing these kind of things, and you have plan A, B, C, and D, in some way, trust me, the plan A is not always working.
Exactly.
When you really cut and you said, okay, this is the only plan and period, you made this happen. But so many times when you have so many, I'm not saying that you're not supposed to be prepared and you have a portfolio of options. This is different. But when you're making a decision to, okay, I'm leaving this point, I'm going to the next one. Yesterday, I was also talking with an Italian TV, it's an author of making books, Roberto, fantastic person. And he always was saying that his father made him study engineer. And in the middle of the career, he thought, maybe it's not my thing, but he finished. He worked to be sure, okay, it's not. So he complete some task. So it's important in life, when we put a goal, it's important to try to complete, to really make the measure, okay, now I'm sure, because otherwise we're gonna see people jumping from one field to the other, never completing anything, and always with doubt, because when you jump, maybe okay, what if I would continue what I was doing? So it's a disaster. So I think it's another thing.
I'm fully with you, and you call it plan B. I call it safety net. I mean, I didn't have a parachute, you know, I mean, that's it. And for me, like after I left to Paris on my own, and my father telling me crazy, for me, there was no option of not making it, you know, I mean, that's it. So I agree with you. Having the hedging and diversification and portfolio doesn't help to achieve great things. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And during the university, Boyan, do you have any mentor, or how were these years in the university?
This is such a good question. You know, I was actually very, very lucky. I had always had my wife calls them the guardians angels. So I went to Paris to study business, you know, after communism. And then 3 months or 4 months later, my economics professor comes to see me and says, you know, hey, Boyan, come here. I said, what? He said, change your major, you know, study something, you know, serious. I mean, business, you know, you always got to learn it. So he made me change my major to economics. which was harder. So again, this was and he remained though my mentor throughout my undergrad degree. And I can tell you, I mean, the guy was an amazing teacher, and a born teacher. You know, he would just go take the chalk and not stop, you know, for the whole thing. And of course, I mean, these people there, they become the role models. So he was an Iranian guy. His name is Ali Ranema. I mean, totally amazing. So he made me change my major. He said, I mean, come on. I mean, what is that in business? He told me, get a real degree, you know. So I changed to economics. So I was studying harder subject, you know, with more conceptual, more mathematics and statistics. And I minored in business. But this was one of my first mentors. Then as one of my student jobs, I became kind of a personal assistant to the ex-CEO of Ford in France.
Wow.
The guy was not computer literate, so he came on campus and he was looking for a student to help him, you know, deal with IT and computers. And at that time, I was a student, I was on top of IT, you know, so I mean, can you imagine? The guy was like 65, 67. I was 22. I
Wow.
mean, and he was an amazing mentor as well. And
this is also that I advised to people, to young people, to go closer with smarter, more rich, better positioned people that you can, because and you know what, clean the car, whatever, but be close to these people. Try to find an opportunity to bring value to this person, because just one phrase can change your life. So if they give you an option, if you can learn a little bit from them, it's like a huge advantage in your life.
Exactly. So I was both lucky and yeah, I mean, probably lucky, and I could also connect and appreciate and nourish the relationship with such people. But this was amazing. And also the mentors, also they're like coaches. They give you confidence at the right moment. You know.
It's true.
After my undergrad, you know, I was thinking what to do, and I was hesitating whether to apply to business school for an MBA. And he said, "Go for it." He says, and he told me, "Boyan, I'm gonna bet my last dollar that you're gonna make it." You know. And then when a guy like this, I mean, this gives you confidence, this gives you energy, you know. So I applied to INSEAD. By the way, it was also one of his suggestions. And for your info, you know, people say that INSEAD is the European Harvard. You know, we say that actually Harvard is the American INSEAD. You know, so.
So you go directly from the university to the MBA?
No. I started working first for L'Oréal and then for Yves Rocher. And then I quickly moved to INSEAD, and then INSEAD really, first of all, it's a great school. It's a great school, great students, and also it opened a lot of doors to me. I mean,
of course,
this was kind of really you know, in some ways, I want to go back to talking about maybe sharing experience with young people and what worked for me, especially for those who don't know what to do. After INSEAD, I spent some years in consulting, strategy consulting, and for people that don't have a clear idea and calling, I mean, that's something I would really recommend, that really helped me a lot to get kind of both conceptual skills, structuring skills, and also you immediately start talking to CEOs or board level people. And I was 25, 26. It's also a great learning opportunity. And again, there are two types of people: those who are born to be consultants. So for them, I would recommend to stay consultants. For other people, I would say stay there 2-3 years and then move on.
I love it.
My consulting experience really helped me a lot, and it's still giving me, I would say, some advantage or edge or help in my job.
I can't agree more with you, because in some way, even I don't have an exactly a consulting agency, but being able to work in marketing and communication for a company forces you to really go deep in different industries. So in some way, we are consulting, understanding, learning about, but then we focus more in one aspect, is the communication. But in some way, to really help brands and how to communicate, what to do with the products, we need to really go deep. And I feel the same as you. I think that I love jumping every single day, from rice to the store to medicine thing to cell phones. So it's fantastic. And for me, it's so fun learning, and always, also it's not boring, because I don't see myself all the time doing the same. I think I'm going to kill myself, but I absolutely agree with you that this is the best advice for kids, that they finish. If they go to consulting, they can literally go deep and in a nice position with nice views about different industries, and then discover where they really believe is the passion. I agree with you. So
exactly.
and then tell me, so then you finish, so you work L'Oreal, then MBA,
Then
then
consulting.
consulting.
Yeah.
And how many years you did in consulting?
I spent a little bit too long, I would say. 4 years. I spent 4 years.
Okay.
That's, I would say, the max people should do. I mean, unless they really want to stay into consulting. Some people are born, to
That, of course.
be in the industry. Yeah, this was not my case. I like leading big teams, and I like also implementing the things I recommend.
Got it.
So I'm not getting a kick. I really like the intellectual and conceptual part, but I like putting it into place, and I like seeing the results. So this
Of
I
course.
really have a strong affinity for action. You know me a little bit. So I actually joined one of my clients, who I was 30. Was a French CEO of Bell at that time. Francis Lucam is his name. He told me, he made me I was working on a project for him, and he told me, Boyan, join us. And I said, why should I? He was working for Bell at that time, and I said, well, he said, I'm gonna pay you more, and I'm gonna make you a country manager in 1 year. Which was a very appealing offer. And
Imagine in this company in France. Oh my God, you totally made it.
exactly. And so I did. I jumped ship, and actually he kept his promise, which was not an obvious promise to keep. And they sent me at that time to Austria. I was, I don't know, 30, 31. I can tell you, pretty unexperienced as a country manager, and things.
This
Um,
Super John also.
Sorry.
Super John. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. I was quite young, and it was a nice continuation of the story. Yeah. And then little by little, I was adding
I
more
love it.
assignments, more countries to that, and
Fantastic, Boyan.
here I am today. Yeah.
Now I need to jump to the questions. So
Go ahead.
how old are you right now?
I'm 47.
47. Okay. Do you remember the first time? How old were you when you make the first penny, the first dollar, or whatever?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was 13, and I was carrying away construction waste from a construction site for a friend of my uncle.
Okay.
So yeah, it was one
So
of the
hard
benefits
work.
of doing all these tough jobs. I can tell you, it's a big motivation, to
To
excel,
study.
to study. Exactly. I mean, this was really part of my kind of. I was like, I'm gonna hit the books. I'm gonna get the grades,
I
and I'm gonna
love
get
it.
the job, because I mean,
I don't want this for my life.
exactly. Yeah.
Got it.
And the toughest job I did for free was for one of my the brothers of my grandfathers was a shepherd. I would have a bunch of herd of sheep, and you have this romantic thing. You want to be with the sheep in the mountain. I can tell you, I did it for 2 hours. I mean, that's and I have huge respect for all these the jobs, and I can tell you they're very, 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 very tough. So I resigned after 2 hours for my shepherd experience. Again, at the age of 13. it was a big disaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
One question. What was the biggest success of your life? What do you consider the big success?
The biggest success of my life is, um, again, I really want to be clear with the audience and with you, my dear Ricardo, on the definition of success and failure. Success, what is success to me can mean a total
Absolutely.
failure for somebody else,
Absolutely.
and vice versa. Um, so for me, this will be very, very personal, but the biggest success for me is having, my family, my wife, my kids, my friends, being healthy, being here. That's so it's not the number of employees or the zeros in the bank account, but that's I consider this my biggest success.
You know what? Yesterday I was talking with another friend in an interview, and you know that right now there is kind of a trend that is better, instead of going to the university, go to a super short a course and find something specific and then start making money. But and at the beginning, for me, it makes sense that it's true. Why to spend so much time? But I remember. Do you remember the not last year, 2 years ago in Harvard, when in class there was, it was one of the last classes that we start all crying when
Gosh, yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So one of the things that is most important and fantastic from universities is that make me, make people that go there to really change perception about happiness, give us more responsibility about what we should be doing as a head of a company through the social impact that we can make, and not just the money that we can bring to the shareholders. So for me, is such a mistake to cut and try to find a different option super fast and forget the big value of the university. And maybe in the short term or immediately through numbers you can perceive is how real university like Harvard can change people deeply, can change really for better. So I really change, and Gira is responsible, you know, the head of this program,
yeah.
of all these, because in my case, I remember even freedom start with this. So
I remember you do charting it on the paper. You
you
know,
were, oh my God,
yeah, I
you
was
were in the
there. I
same
was there.
class. Shit. So he was in class with his first lines and no one understand what the fuck is that. Okay. So but the beauty about the universities, and I really push kids to go to the university, is to not just learn how to make money, but learn how to be better leaders, better people, better fathers, because the impact in society is more bigger than just making money. So I totally agree with you, and I need to find a way to communicate this better, Boyan. I think that we have a responsibility to explain the world and to share that we need to start studying to be a better person and not just to making more money. Okay, sorry for the long comments.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good.
So,
I mean,
what is the biggest failure in your lives, Boyan? Because every single person has, you know.
I cannot give you a concrete example, but I would say I've had I have to also make a transition now, but I've had many failures, and you know, people who do not move do not fail. You know, and I have, you know, I made mistakes probably every day, and a bunch of them. I would say where I had the biggest regret, and which I consider a mistake or a failure, is you know, being too tough on many people, uh, you know, privately, including my close family, being too tough on friends, being very tough on colleagues, on competitors in business, and of course tough with myself. So there's maybe one sharing from, again, one of my mentors that I have, is easy does it. You know, I think you can achieve a lot with and you have it this more a little bit in Latam, you know, kind of suave, you know, take it easy, be a little bit more
Maybe too much in Latin. Too much in Latin.
sorry.
Maybe
Sorry?
too much in Latin. Too much
Exactly,
relaxed.
but I mean, you see what I mean. I think you can achieve a lot, uh,
I know.
kindness, and I've been, what I consider my mistakes here, been in many occasions, and you know, too tough on my close family, on my friends, on colleagues, competitors, as I told you, and on myself at the end of the day. So
Okay.
that's
And I also love, Boyan, how you, without any problem, mention I do mistake every single day. And it's beautiful that we can understand that, and it's not a problem. And we understand that the only way to create something new and is experimentation. So it's normal to, in some way, be open to make mistakes and immediately learn from this mistake and don't do it again. So it's a normal process. And I think in America, it's very clear that it's like this. But in other countries, I think it's important to also teach this lesson. So they need to be open to make mistakes. Of course, be responsible. It's not going crazy, but if you do the homework, if you are doing some process and then for any reason doesn't work, it's not a problem. Let's try to learn and improve. That's it. What is the best
You're
advice?
totally right. In Europe, I mean, like still people are about perfection and,
Exactly.
failures and mistakes are not
Very
well
judgy.
viewed. Sorry? Yeah,
Very judgy also.
exactly. So I'm fully with you, and kind of even admitting a mistake is considered a weakness. And,
Exactly.
there's a lot of, and I've been, part of that in the past, and I have been too tough on myself, and unfortunately on a lot of people.
Got it. Do you have an amount of money to stop working, Boyan, or you enjoy what you do and you're never going to stop?
No, definitely never gonna stop. I mean, it's impossible.
Love it. Love
To
it.
for one thing is learning, and the thing is that, I mean, you have to really address me, but my list of books to read and things to do is not decreasing; it's increasing.
I love
So
it. I love it.
so I can tell you, I mean, I cannot see a stop, and um, as of I have to stop breathing, to stop working. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So eventually I will stop, but it's not linked to the money, and I think I'm pretty unmaterialistic person. There are things, again, for me personally, it's not only the numbers that are important, and but definitely, and this is what I tell to, I teach some students kind of pro bono, and I always tell them that they all think that after their BA or MBA school stops. No, I mean, school never stops.
Love it.
Yeah.
What is the best advice that someone tell you?
The best advice that somebody told me, I told you, I already mentioned it spontaneously. It's easy does it. And then, going back to the wisdom of my grandfather, uh, do not be a musician, be a director. That's
Okay.
what has been.
I know the answer of this question, but I need to. How many days do you make exercise?
Well, it has been changing. You don't know the answer, because there was the pre-COVID and post and during COVID situation. So I was doing it. By the way, very important way of maybe experience sharing here from one of my mentors. And actually he was a kind of a competitor, and I was in my mid-30s. The guy was mid-50s, and we were kind of in a little bit of a corporate fight. So we had some team building event, and I was doing sports. I was pretty fit at that time, and this guy was, pretty fit too. So one of the things maybe to share is to explore and go ask people what are the secrets of success. So I went to him and said, well, wait a minute, you're 50 something, you're as fit as me. How do you do it? And he asked me, how do you do it? And I told him, well, I do sports when I have time left. And he was like, you should take it the other way around. If you really want to invest in your health and fitness, you should really make it a priority in your agenda, and then do the rest if there is time. So this was a mental shift. And really before that, I was, my health and fitness was my slack. If I had something left over, nothing to do, then I would do that. So really, this made a mental shift, turning it the other way around. So I'm very grateful to this kind of past corporate enemy. So you can learn from your enemies a lot, and from your competitors. And then I've been doing maybe 3 times a week, in a very consequential way. One of the good things about the COVID was I'm doing it now every day. Yeah, so this is amazing. This has been very, very good. All the commuting and traveling times, which has been compressed, part of it I could take and emphasize on sports.
Boyan, do you eat healthy?
What do you think, Ricardo?
Oh, I think yes. I think.
Yeah. I think that's I'm a kind of a healthy eating freak as well, and one of the sayings that I'd like to share, because I've saw some of the other interviews, is you cannot outrun your fork. So, I mean, if you eat wrongly, you can go to the gym as much as you want. You will not be able to get rid of the damage created by your intake. So I think healthy eating and healthy drinking is essential. Is essential, and this
100%.
probably
Boyan, at what time do you go to sleep?
um, 11:30,
Wake
and
up?
wake up 7.
Okay, perfect. And okay, what is the, if you need to advise or give a recommendation of just one book, what do you recommend?
I have to give you 2 books, and
Okay, me too.
so I was talking a lot about luck. It's by the way, it's a book by 3 INSEAD professors. It has 3 co-authors. One of them is Greek, the other one is Indian, and the other one is Greek, Indian, and Spanish. So Greek, Indian, and Spanish. All of them are statistics professors. So the name of the book is called Dance with Chance. Dance with Chance. And the subtitle of the book is Making Luck Work for You. And the book is amazing. I mean, it has everything
Wow, I love it.
about business, about health, about sports, about love. Let's not forget it. I mean, this is probably the most important. So the book is absolutely amazing. It's totally under the radar, but it's one of the best books one of my top 3
Wow.
books in my life, and it has been shaping also my kind of approach to life. It's I would call it one of those life-changing books. It has about investment as well. I forgot to mention the diversification and all that. But it's an amazing book. Second book. So the first one is Dance with Chance, and the second one is called The World of Yesterday. And this one is written by a Viennese, I live in Vienna, by a Viennese author called Stefan Zweig. And this is a book about a history of Europe from 1900 until 1942. And I would say that's an amazing book that has to be read by, I think it should be a must-read book in high school for everybody. So The World of Yesterday.
Amazing. I love it. Okay, Boyan, and the last question, what is the advice, brother, that you give to the people that are listening during this crazy time, pandemia?
A pandemic advice?
No, it's like, so in this time where people are super depressed, super thinking that it's the end of the world, whatever. So what is the advice that, it's the last question. So what is the last advice that you give in this interview?
My last advice is this too shall pass. Look for the opportunities. Complaining about it doesn't help, but I would say in every crisis, and I know they said in Chinese, opportunity and crisis is the same word. So, and I see so many people around us in YPO, for example, Ricardo have it. Like when this, shit hits the fan, those with the right mindset say, okay, great, what are the opportunities? So, and of course, it's not easy and not a walk in the park, and it has been dramatic for some families and for some businesses, for a lot of our friends who have hotels, restaurants, travel industry. I mean, it's very, 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 very tough. But again, what are the opportunities? And I think everything has a meaning for happening, and with the right mindset, we can enjoy and we can progress and we can learn from any situation.
100%. Boyan, I love you, brother. Thank you for being this call. I hope to see you soon in Vienna, in the US, or whatever we can.
Ricardo, thank you really for having me, for taking your time on the weekend, and for having me in this amazing roster of people.
No,
Thank you,
thank you,
Ricardo,
brother.
brother.
See you
See you
soon.
soon.
Take
Take
care.
care.